Don't stop it! Don't stop it! Don't stop it! You're telling don't stop it!
I'm on fire after the last 2 weekends of the Vittori Costa and Blachowicz versus Teixeira, making some good money, keeping that train rolling into UFC 268, Kamaru versus Colby Covington 2. Big weekend for Trevor Whitman, looking for my 5 most confident picks. Like I said, keep this money train rolling. No turning back now. Jumping right into it here, there's a couple situations on this card where I'm confident in one guy to win, but I think there's great value on a certain line on the props for their opponent that I think there's a significant chance that they could possibly pull that off. I think there's some good value if you search hard enough on some of these props. So first example of that's going to be Chito Vera versus Frankie Edgar. I got Chito Vera in this one. I think he's got the momentum on his side. He's younger. He's been showing improvement in between fights, whereas Frankie Edgar, he's a vet. He just turned 40. He's getting old, and especially in the division, it's not like the lightweights or the light heavyweights or the heavyweight division like we saw with Glover Teixeira winning last weekend at 42 years old. It's a little bit different at these lighter weights where that reaction time and that speed and conditioning and you need that youthfulness. It shows it's much more important in these lighter weights, and not like Chito Vera is necessarily a spring chicken, but he's definitely got that youthful momentum on his side that it seems like he's been making improvements from fight to fight. His striking's dangerous. You can go back to the Sean O'Malley fight. He's got a lot of tools in his arsenal. He's not necessarily the best boxer or the best kickboxer or the best wrestler, but he's very good in almost every category in MMA that you can think of. Frankie Edgar has shown in the past, though, however, that he has put the stop to some seemingly younger hype trains that the UFC has been seeming like they're trying to build a name off of Frankie with. Going back to the Yair Rodriguez fight, that was almost like 5 years ago at this point, and I don't think we can draw too much from those performances as we look at Frankie's last 4 or 5 fights. He picked up the split decision win over Pedro Munoz. Kind of controversial, but the biggest thing for me here is that he hasn't. His route to victory usually is that pressure wrestling, ground and pound control, maybe some strikes against the fence. He was decent out in the open, but those other things were his main bread and butter. And he's shown kind of that distance management to be able to pull those things off hasn't been like it used to for Frankie in these last couple fights. I think Chito Vera has awesome distance management. Again, going back to the Sean O'Malley fight, who everyone likes to talk about as the the new best striker in the division, and I think he managed distance perfectly in that fight. And because of all these things, that's why I'm going Chito Vera money line in this. However, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I think there's some great value on Frankie Edgar by decision. That's coming in at plus 260 because the Marlon Vera line's minus 172. Not the steepest line, definitely some value in there. I think I might have capped it at minus 190, something like that. And Frankie Edgar at plus 260 on points. I can see, if he can close a distance or pull off a Pedro Munoz type performance, I think he can definitely either, won't call it a robbery, but might win a controversial judge's decision or maybe a clear controlled wrestling decision against Vera. I think that's definitely less likely to happen. I'm much more confident in Vera to find a way to get it done with just too many tricks in his arsenal. But another starting off with the fight that I think I can make a profit on no matter what, either in Vera money line or and hedging a little with Frankie by decision. Next up, my 4th most confident pick, I got Shane Burgos over Billy Quarantillo. I think Burgos has just faced a lot tougher, stiffer competition and has been racking up that UFC experience more than Billy Quarantillo, who's in a similar boat where he's young and has tons of promise and has a lot of room to become a really elite fighter. I just think Shane Burgos is a little bit farther, or maybe a couple significant steps farther along that journey than Billy Quarantillo is. You look at Shane Burgos' who he's lost to and who he's fought. Edson Barbosa, Josh Emmett, Calvin Guitar. Those are his 3 losses, which are, I think Josh Emmett is horrifically underrated in the division just because he's not as active, I think, as most of the other fighters are. But Edson Barbosa and Calvin Guitar, 2 of the best strikers in the division. And Shane Burgos is a dude who's doesn't really have a path to victory with a grappling game. So you put an elite striker against the two of the top 3 elite strikers in the division, and he came out on the bottom on both of those. You lose and you learn. I think Burgos has learned a lot from those fights and has evolved as a fighter because of it. Only question being, it was a bad knockout to Edson Barbosa. It was definitely something that takes some time off your life, but we've seen people come back from that positively before, and we've seen people come back from that negatively before. Try to keep all of those exterior things out of the logical conclusion when you're trying to bet a fight. So for this, I like Shane Burgos due to his octagon experience, showing that he can strike and stay in there with the most elite strikers in the division with Barbosa and Calvin Guitar and land damage. When he lands, he hurts people. He lands hard. Billy Quarantillo, people always talk about his gas tank being great, but I've seen the man gas in the later rounds multiple times. Gavin Tucker gas bad. Spike Carlisle started to gas bad in the second half of that, even though he wound up winning. Because of these things, I like Shane Burgos to win, and I think Billy Quarantillo's best route to victory is to work a ground game. Burgos has enough of a ground game to get back to his feet, or at least stop a couple takedowns to win a decision here, or knock him out in the later rounds, maybe round 3 or later round 2. But I'm going with Shane Burgos here, coming in at I believe a minus 200 favorite. All right, next up, we got Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. A lot of people have been saying this is the people's main event, and I tend to agree. 2 dudes that definitely have brought some excitement, especially in their UFC careers as of late. Justin Gaethje, 22-3, coming off of a loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who doesn't have that on the record. And before that, 4 wins in a row by KO to Ferguson, Cerrone, Barbosa, and James Vick. A dude who always comes to fight, and he's getting coached by Trevor Whitman, who him and James Krause are my two coaches of the last couple years. Seen the most improvements and success out of their guys. Then you move to Michael Chandler, a little bit of an unknown if you're just a UFC guy. However, I've known Michael Chandler as a beast for many years now from his Bellator career. And if you just watched him in the UFC, a lot of people are thinking he's a real kind of KO guy. He's got a lot of power in his hands, and which he does. He definitely has a route to victory with KO wins. However, historically, his fight style, how he gets stuff done is you throw some hooks on the feet to open up a takedown, get the guy to the ground, and then kind of pound him out with that. Now, not taking anything away from Michael Chandler because he's done nothing since he's gotten into the UFC but work his balls off and really leave it all out there with the Dan Hooker fight, KOing him in a couple minutes, and Charles Oliveira winning a 10-8 in the first round and then getting caught in the second. So I do really like Michael Chandler. I think he's a fantastic fighter. But a couple holes that I saw that made me favor Gaethje in this matchup. I think if it's you just look at wrestling, I think Chandler definitely has an edge. I don't think that edge is big enough to win a fight off of. Justin Gaethje also has he didn't do it in the Khabib fight too much, even though Khabib said it was he did get hit by a calf kick and that it really hurt, but he didn't throw too many calf kicks in the Khabib fight. But we've seen in his Barbosa, James Vick, Cerrone, and Ferguson fights that those calf kicks are goddamn deadly. And Michael Chandler has shown in his past, you look at the Patricio Pitbull fight, ate a lot of leg kicks, has shown a tendency to eat some hard leg kicks over his career, which I think Gaethje starts off at range, not really exchanging too crazily, and landing some early leg kicks, which I think is going to get Chandler to stop thinking about throwing the bombs and hooks and look for a takedown kind of earlier in the fight than he was previously expecting. Like I said, Gaethje, a Trevor Whitman product. I tried it on the Costa Vittori card with the with the James Krause parlay. Same mentality kind of going into a lot of these fights here. That I think the gym and the coach and the cornerman are having more of an effect on these guys between fights and the outcomes and predicting how guys are going to fare in their next fights than people realize. So you get all this time with Trevor Whitman, and you add Kamaru and Rose to the scene, and just that real champion's mindset and mentality and working hard every day. I love Gaethje in this situation here. I think if it's a banger, then Chandler always does have a chance to land that KO power. However, if it's a slugfest, we've seen in the past that when Chandler gets hit or he gets rocked hard, he's not really the most game to keep engaging in that stuff. He tends to, once he gets hit hard or eats a big shot, tends to circle around the octagon a lot more, work on takedowns, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of how I see this playing out. Leg kicks, engage in the first brawl. The first time I think Chandler gets hit hard by Gaethje, he's going to turn into a wrestler. For all these reasons, I love Gaethje over Chandler in this situation at minus 220. Second most confident pick of the card, moving to the main event with Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. Kamaru's coming in at a minus 310 favorite to Colby's plus 240 underdog. Now, like I said about Gaethje, all the same Whitman stuff applies here with Kamaru Usman getting better and better in between fights. I think he's just a half a step better at everything than Colby Covington. 2 weeks ago, I was riding the James Krause parlay. I think I'm going to slap it in again. Not going to be one of my top 5 confident bets because I'm really up in the air with this Rose Namajunas Weili Zhang fight. But that might be a thing I really think about is that Trevor Whitman parlay with Gaethje, Rose, and Kamaru Usman. Try to get a little value on that Usman line. So with all that being said, another situation where I think I'm confident in a guy, but I think there's more value, probability-wise, on sprinkling in some prop bets in on this. So Kamaru Usman's a minus 310 favorite, but Kamaru Usman by TKO is plus 155. I'm going to put a half unit on that. I think there's a real possibility. Kamaru Usman used to be I don't want to say pillow-handed, but just didn't really commit to that kind of ferocity in his striking, and I think he's got the technique now to be confident enough to commit hard while not feeling like he's putting himself in danger. So I like to sprinkle a little half unit bet on Kamaru Usman by TKO at plus 155, and then to cover it all, I got Colby Covington by points at plus 460. I think that value is great. I don't think that this line should be a minus 300. The last fight they had, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman won. I had that 2-2 going into the 5th round where Kamaru knocked out Covington. If that, last round goes a little differently, I got Covington coming out there with the victory. Now he's had a lot of time off. Could have got better, could have got worse during that time. But I think it's only speaking logically and looking at the last fight and seeing how things have played out. I think you'd be a fool not to take an opportunity to make sure you don't lose any money off of a probable chance that Colby Covington can win this by decision. So I like Kamaru Usman money line as a very confident bet of the night. However, don't really see the most value in his line, and I see more value in Kamaru Usman by TKO and Colby Covington by points. So I'm going to put bets on all 3 of those things. Kamaru probably money line in a parlay. Kamaru by TKO, maybe a full unit on that, and then a half or full unit on Colby Covington by points. Because I think no matter how that fight plays out, another situation where I think I can leave this fight winning a profit no matter what. Now my last and most confident pick of the card, another dude who I think is obscenely underrated in Bobby Green over Iaquinta. Iaquinta's a fucking dog. He's a born fighter, but I don't think he's as professional or dedicated to fighting or to the UFC as these other dudes are, and I think that's dangerous when you're going to go against some other some killers, right? And Bobby Green, I think people have maybe thought that a little bit about him. However, in his last fight against Rafael Fiziev, I bet on Fiziev, so I was happy that he won that decision. But Bobby Green did so much better on the feet than I was ever expecting. I think he won that third round pretty clearly. I think he might have even won that. I think it might have been the first or the second, whatever it was. He really impressed me on the feet. He seemed like he had a dog in him. He seemed like he didn't want to go anywhere. He was still very motivated, very hungry. Getting a little older at age 35, but I think his hunger, work ethic, and drive is more than Al Iaquinta's. I think he's probably been working harder. Al's had a big break, hasn't fought since 2019 and has lost to Dan Hooker. You can go back to 2018 just to prove as an example of how much of a boss Al Iaquinta is after he stepped in on like 3 days' notice to fight Khabib for the belt. So he's a dog and he's got some good skills, but lost to Donald Cerrone and even the loss to Kevin Lee is starting to not the win over Kevin Lee, I should say, don't age the best as time has gone on. Bobby Green, I think, is defying that narrative. I think Bobby Green is my most confident bet at a minus 168 favorite. I think, I could be a little biased in it, but I think if I was a real matchmaker or capper, I'd put this at a minus 250, something like that. Just because Al Iaquinta's not active at all. He's old, got some losses, coming off losses. He lost a grappling bout to Mike Perry recently, which it's a grappling bout, doesn't prove the most, but if you've been losing consistently for a couple years, it's hard to have that same confidence of I'm a dog, I'm a boss, I can get it done on any night. So all this being said, Bobby Green hard at minus 168. He's my lock of the night. No disrespect to Al Iaquinta, a born fighter, a real gladiator, but I think you got to put in the time, effort, and dedication at all times, which I think Al Iaquinta used to do, but in the last couple of years, you see him with all the real estate stuff, the podcasting stuff. Doesn't seem like MMA or the UFC is a priority, and when you're stepping in there with some killers, I think to get your hand raised, it needs to be a priority.